So no joke, I genuinely think right now, in terms of professional wrestling, it could be the maddest time ever. Now that is massive hyperbole, of course it is. We are on the road to WrestleMania, and then what happens on last night's episode of SmackDown? If you go to the rumor mill, of course you knew this was apparently on the cards, but we had 2 teasers for new professional wrestlers. When do you ever get 2? It's like when you went back to that crazy All-In show when Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson turned up. It's like, oh my gosh, Reddit booked this. It's the most wonderful thing ever. But if I were hazard to guess, and again, I think Rey Fenix was the first one, Aleister Black was the second one, well, I've just given it away. It does seem like they're heading to SmackDown. I mean, the first was a luchador wrestling around a ring with like an orange tint around it, so it's not Phoenix. I mean, something crazy has happened. And the Aleister Black one, or who I presume is Aleister Black, with a big number 4, was all dark and spooky, and we had some smoke, and it was very reminiscent of that room he was trapped in, I believe, for most of the pandemic. And if WWE does want to do that, me, Simon Miller, a big fan of Goofy Wrestling for Life, will be very happy if he just says, I'm still in this room. Can somebody please unlock the door? But there is actually loads of interesting things to point out about, because as we've talked about many a time, I'm not a big fan of SmackDown at 3 hours. Very excited about May or June when it goes back to 2 hours. I just think it works better at 120 minutes. What it is missing is maybe more feuds, maybe more wrestlers, maybe more people, maybe more individuals that we do see as stars, because there is a lot of filler. Like that opening now, people coming in the building and just talking about the matches, goes on for about 10 minutes. I don't need that. I understand it's good to set the scene, but you should be able to do that in around about 90 seconds, if not less. And also, I think it's super smart by WWE, because eventually the Lucha Brothers will be back together. Penta and Phoenix, they'll run wild. They'll probably become the WWE Tag Team Champions, which will be wonderful. But there ain't no rush, man. We got 52 weeks of programming a year. We got lots of stories to tell, lots of narratives to get into. So if you have Penta run wild on Raw, you have Phoenix run wild on SmackDown, exhaust or get as much out of them as possible as single stars, and then go put them as a tag team. Now, I see some people going, oh man, but they're better as a tag team. Sure, yeah, that's probably true. But okay, do it sooner then. Pull the trigger. But as soon as they're together, WWE will want to separate them, because they're obsessed with having relationship breakdowns in the world of professional wrestling, and I much prefer it them being together forever, right? That's what I want people to be singing in 50 years' time. Together, forever. I shouldn't have done that in the video, and I'm super sorry that I did. But you should try and see if we can get them over. It kind of ties into the Gunther versus Axiom stuff we did yesterday. Anytime anybody ever mentioned about Fraxium breaking up, which we shouldn't do, but that's a different video for a different day, it's mostly because, Nathan Frazier and Axiom are never going to be able to get over on the main roster. Now, I get we were in Spain, which is Axiom's hometown, or home country, I should say. But I think we just proved with the right creative and the right thought and the right backing, you can do whatever you want. It's professional wrestling and it's fabulous. So I don't know what area Phoenix would get involved in. Maybe we just do a bunch of dream matches for a few months. Maybe he goes after the US title. You know, Penta could do the same thing on Raw. Maybe he's heading for the Intercontinental Championship. Or maybe they just ignore all of this and we just put the tease on SmackDown because they're going to turn up on whatever show. Like, I'm pretty sure the Penta one was on both. I think that's accurate. I may be wrong. And there is the tease there already, because let's face it, Ludwig Kaiser and Pete Dunne, don't call him Butch, keep beeping up Penta. So maybe we just put it on here, because well, now the time to do it. We'll get one on Raw, we'll get one on SmackDown, we'll get one on Raw, we'll get one on SmackDown, and whoop, bam, there's your nan. Everything is totally fine. I actually prefer them being separate for a while, because again, I think SmackDown needs more bodies, and I just like Penta on Raw for no apparent reason. But we wait and see, and I don't mind anybody jumping ship. Sadly, we do have to talk about this. I just want the individuals in question to be happy first and foremost, because even though they are living their dream, they're still humans, and they still have a life. Also, it's the best part of wrestling for me. Like, I love watching AEW, I love watching WWE. Professional wrestling is my favorite part of wrestling. And as a man that was sort of lucky enough to be there for the tail end of WCW, super exciting seeing Chris Jericho go over there. Not many people went to WWE afterwards. Before they did, like Lex Luger when he turned up on the first Nitro, and of course Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, and all these dudes. And we haven't had that for so long. Now we have had it for the last 6 years. I think it's great. Adam Cole going to AEW, awesome. Phoenix going the other way, awesome. There's always going to be some controversy and some personal issues, because again, it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for, but powder keg of emotions when it does come to pro wrestling. But I love it. I think it's great, and I hope more people continue to jump back and forth and earn a bunch of money. And Aleister Black, I don't want to say it's more intriguing, but obviously we can kind of see where Phoenix is going. Now, I thought the new member of the Judgment Day could be Aleister Black, but I don't like that. I think Aleister Black is better as an entity of his own. Now I'm starting to think that Karrion Kross should go into the Judgment Day. Different story for a different day again. But I do think Aleister Black should be on SmackDown for all the reasons we've already talked about. It just needs something else. It just needs somebody public that can fill things in. And he's a great wrestler, and he has a great aura to him, and cinema, and to use all those dumb words. Like, whether or not LA Knight's going to be the US champion coming out of WrestleMania, I don't know. I've got this bee in my bonnet about Jacob Fatu doing something. And as we saw on SmackDown, not holding the championships for overly long can work. That tag team title change was great. But an LA Knight versus Aleister Black feud really interests me, because Aleister Black can kind of play both face and heel. He can kind of walk a line down the middle. But then all the stuff with the bloodline that would be interesting. A Damian Priest, Aleister Black, my gosh. These are the kind of things I want to see and why I get excited. I also don't mind him feuding with Drew, but I really hope Drew post-WrestleMania goes after the World Championship. I mean, it depends what happens with John Cena, right? There was another rumor that it was going to be Drew versus Cody, and you could still do that with the championship or not. But Drew needs a big win in a feud soon. He's earned that. But there are a bunch of people on SmackDown that are ready to make that show their own, but we just need to lean into it a little bit more. It's like the Chelsea Green stuff. Her Secret Service, whatever flip she calls it, is wonderful. And putting Alba Fire in there and the dumb costumes, it's just what I want from wrestling, man. And the fact she's the US champion just gives it a little bit of weight. Then Selena Vega just walks up and's like, oh, hi, I'd love a US title shot. I know they've had beef in the past, but I just want and I just need more. And we can do that. We have the time. We have the potential. So I'd love to take some of these other guys and really line them up with Aleister Black too, because when he was trapped in his cupboard, there was a lot of potential there. People were excited about it, but he never left the cupboard and we didn't know what was going on. I mean, listen, I'm guessing that it's Aleister Black. I put it in the thumbnail, but I could like an idiot once again. It could be Amira, Rusev, Alana that could also be coming back to WWE. And I hope they do. I think one of them's going to have to be saved for post-WrestleMania because you want a big debut on that Raw. Like if Rusev and Lana come back on that Raw, I'm going to be blessed to be at that show. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm sure if you watch any of my content, you know that in terms of modern day wrestling, Rusev is one of my favorites. But we have to wait and see. But I do like all of this, especially when I look at it from a watcher point of view. SmackDown needs something. This is something. And it just opens up the door for so many matchups. Like, even if you started doing, I don't know, Phoenix versus Santos Escobar. Like, I know it's not a money match. You're not going to main event WrestleMania with it. But I'll still sit down and be like, Phoenix versus Santos Escobar. How the flub did we get here? And I never want to forget that. I mean, we had Axiom versus Gunther, right? Never in my wildest dreams did I think that would happen on SmackDown television, sort of, 8 years ago, whenever the flub it was. But it was brilliant. It's only like 8-9 minutes. You should go and watch that. It just goes to show David versus Goliath, big man versus not so big man. You can make it work in his home country. People going nuts. He was never going to lose Gunther, but if you really wanted to believe that you could. So I thought that was absolutely fantastic. The Cody Rhodes mid stuff is exactly what I want from talk shows these days. I've talked about this on Ups and Downs as well. Make sure you check out What Culture there for my full recap and review. But we don't need talk shows in 2025. And subscribe as well. Subscribing is important. Please do interact. But I just find them dull. People are cutting promos anyway. Like, it started off with a promo from LA Knight. Why is that not LA Knight's magical talk show? Because it's stupid and we don't need it. But here we actually used it to sort of, prolong the angle with Cody Rhodes and John Cena. Because Cody Rhodes comes out, Miz cuts off the whoa, so Cody whips his ass. And you could even argue he was planning to do that anyway, because he said, I ain't talking to anyone unless your name's John Cena. Mic drop and he leaves. Now, listen, it's good that John Cena is going to be on Raw. You couldn't keep doing these teases. We need some meat on those bones. And yes, there's a picture going around where apparently John Cena's bald spot has been covered up. I think we all need to be nicer about John Cena's hair. We're leaning too far into it as far as I'm concerned. People lose their hair. It's not a big deal. And if you're losing your hair, it's not a big deal. Look at this. It's just life, man. I understand you being upset with it for a while, but I promise you eventually you get over it and nobody's going to care. But maybe that's more personal to me for understandable reasons. But yes, I think we should all be super excited about what we're going to do on Raw. I think we're going to get a fine speech from John Cena. I think they're going to lay in. I think you may get an AEW reference, because if anyone's going to get away with it, it'll be John Cena. So I couldn't be more pumped, if I'm honest with you. But that was nice, and it was short, and it broke up the pacing. And yes, the main event of the Street Profits versus DIY, they timed it so well. This is what Triple H is very good at. He knew that crowd was going to be nuts. It would have been insane if they weren't, because when that ever happened with the overseas crowd. And worked with all the stuff they've been telling with the SmackDown 5, SmackDown 6 when it comes to tag team champions, because we had Pretty Deadly watching on here as well. But it now goes to show we're not necessarily going to hold on to these championships for a long time. Good. Not everyone needs to hold a flipping championship until the next millennium. You have more challenges. We still could be going for a multi-person match when we get to WrestleMania. But either way, it means every time you now watch a match, you can be on the edge of your seat. Motor City Machine Guns were involved. Obviously, Legado del Fantasma were involved too. They wish the Street Profits luck, which has to be total baloney. It didn't make me think, oh man, we're hot potatoing those belts. I was like, no, it felt right. I don't know what that means. Apparently, the Street Profits haven't held those belts for 4 years. That's absolutely ridiculous. So thank goodness we sorted that out. And they do feel like the most over of all the 5 or 6 teams, I can't remember how many it is now, that are fighting for it. So I just really enjoyed it. And again, when I watch wrestling television, I want to be entertaining. Well, that was fun, and it was super duper fun. As with all the stuff at the start of the show, LA Knight was crazy over as well. And we've talked about it here on the channel before. I've always thought that Jacob Fatu was going to be involved with the US title picture in some sense with WrestleMania. Now maybe there's a Solo Sikoa, maybe there's a Jimmy Uso, maybe we throw some other people in too. But we have set up the match with him and Braun Strowman next week after he ran down the aisleway and just careened Braun Strowman into Barry Barricade. And look, Braun Strowman can be involved in that US title picture as well. I think he plays his role very well. He doesn't have to win it, but it's just a nice sort of extra factor, and you can come up with some easy spots around him as well. But we go into a 6-man tag after the Bloodline is there and Jimmy Uso is there. We've also planted seeds for Jimmy Uso, right? I need to get to WrestleMania. And then later on in the show, after he said he wants a challenge for the US title, Gunther sits down with him and says, listen, man, your brother Jay is just like Axiom. Great heart, everyone loves him, but I'll kill him in the ring. Maybe you should have a word with him. And Jimmy says, no, he's going to whoop your ass. So maybe Gunther now takes out Jimmy Uso, not to dinner before WrestleMania, and that's some extra beef for Jay, like he was going to win the US title, man. And now he's able to not do that, which is not a proper sentence. But that was a really well done segment. They sounded like real human beings, which is why I liked it. But yes, the US title picture I think should go in that direction, absolutely. And my big bug in my chest, whatever that means, is the Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest stuff. It was Drew McIntyre, no it wasn't. It was Damian Priest versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Drew McIntyre interferes. Shinsuke Nakamura actually helps Drew McIntyre after the fact. I don't want to do a 3-way, although I'm not massively bothered. I love Shinsuke Nakamura. He's a legend, and I think people forget that just because he wants to surf. Good on him. He's given us enough. But I think people have forgotten how good Drew was in 2024, but how good Damian Priest was. Everything at WrestleMania 40, his run till SummerSlam, pretty much everything he did after that. He was a super duper proper baby face. He got himself over, and Drew McIntyre right now is hitting home runs all over the place. So some of the criticisms, and I'm sure it's just small pockets of the internet, it's just going to rev them up. It's going to be like Batista Undertaker for WrestleMania, whatever the flub it was, where no one thought, oh man, that's not going to be a good match. They were on like 5th or whatever it was, and it was a banger hoss fight, big men slapping man meat, and I think Drew and Damian are going to do the same. I think maybe we could add a stipulation here, but given that we have 2 nights of WrestleMania, I think we could come out and be like, man, why did we say bad things about that? They're too talented and they care too much, and you just know there's going to be a story, because Drew's whole thing is story, 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 story. He had that video here, is like, man, it all goes back to Clash at the Castle, but really the main culprit is Damian Priest, because it's crazy, and I just find Damian Priest just a likable chap. So I don't mind this at all, and I think people again are being way too disparaging. I actually think it's going to be one of the better built WrestleMania matches, because it may be under the radar, so maybe they get more creative input. Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair finally, for goodness sake, finally kicked off. I knew that was going to happen. I knew we were going to have to get through the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view before we were able to pull the trigger. But look, better late than never, but better late than never. No, better never late. You know what I'm talking about. And the brawl was excellent, because it kicked off, then Miz TV happened, they continued to brawl. Tiffany Stratton did the crazy swanton off the top of the entranceway, whatever you want to call it, and people go, oh, she didn't really hit Charlotte Flair very much. Yes, that's a problem you should let consume your life. Absolutely. There's nothing else there right now that we should give our care to. Let's worry about that in a sport that's predetermined. Really, really good idea. But obviously Charlotte Flair takes on B-Fab. Quite like the fact we gave B-Fab some offense, but obviously Charlotte Flair wins dominantly, and then Tiffany Stratton decides you can't put on a hold after the match. She comes out, gets a massive pop. We need the big promo off. We really do. The reason I wanted these two to have a feud, because like they're polar opposites of each other, but also they share similarities. I want to start leaning into that. So hopefully we arrange that soon. You can line a bunch of security guards up between them, because at the moment their only beef is really Charlotte Flair won the Royal Rumble and Tiffany Stratton just so happened to be the champion. She's made some shots, but I think we can get in deeper here. Again, like I expect John Cena and Cody Rhodes to do. But listen, this was way better. This is the first angle. You're like, right, I understand what we're doing now, and I'm getting a little bit excited about it. So, you know, SmackDown I found very easy to watch. It was only the Zelina Vega thing. I was like, man, we can do so much more with this. I don't understand why we're so funny-duddy with it. But there is a lot to it, and you can kind of see the direction that WrestleMania is heading. Although Triple H has said, oh man, you don't know about the twists, the turns, and tribulations that we're going to go on. So maybe there are some surprises. Don't really need to talk about the Paul Heyman promo. He advertised a video game and essentially says, hi, Roman Reigns. He's on next week's show, but he hates CM Punk and Seth Rollins. That's going to be a 3-way. He did mention that you should go to Italy and don't worry about Mussolini at the border. Not in my wildest dreams. Did I ever think that was going to be said on WWE primetime TV? And yes, when we advertised John Cena for Monday, we had the Triple H line, I believe, from the press conference after the Elimination Chamber with, well, you know what? I don't know how John Cena's going to be as a heel. Everyone's going crazy. You'll be surprised to hear I don't give a flub that the word heel got mentioned on WWE TV. Would I rather it wasn't? Probably. I think it's nice to have. I like it when we craft a world on Raw or SmackDown or AEW, whatever it is, where we set boundaries and we make characters, and that's all we see. It's why I think every time The Rock on WWE TV, he should never be Dwayne Johnson. He should always be the final boss. And all the other stuff he should do in press conferences, because it means when you push play, you're completely immersed. But maybe we don't live in that world anymore. Maybe that's stupid. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's something that I think we should lean into more, but everybody's doing it. We're doing it, you know, we did it on the first episode of Netflix. They just sat down and explained all the terms to you. I'm not going to worry about that stuff. It's mad. Vince McMahon once stood in front of, a New Jersey athletic commissioner, said we shouldn't pay the sports tax because we're not real sports. That was public record. That was like 1983. It's probably too early, but it was very, very early on. And anytime there's been any kind of controversy, the promoter will go, well, we're just entertainment. You don't have to do that to us. It's so utterly redonkulous. We all know the curtain got pulled back long ago. If we're going to fall down on that, I kind of think we're just never going to enjoy ourselves, right? You're going to be sad all the time. And speaking about names, it's no longer Dirty Dom, it's no longer Big Bronson Reed, and it's no longer Seth frickin' Rollins. They all got taken off the official page, but then Paul Heyman called him Seth frickin' Rollins, so, you know, I would kind of walk with that with the tightrope. It probably just looks better on paper. And as I mentioned on social media, this is great for me because my brand new wrestling name is indeed Big Dirty Simon frickin' Miller, so I appreciate that being sorted out. But yes, it's a super easy episode of SmackDown to watch because of the crowd. The crowd deserve all the love. I'm very excited because, of course, we've got Belgium on Monday, and then we're in Italy and a bunch of other European countries, and in the UK eventually too. And it's all going to be the same. They'll probably try and outdo each other because that's just what these kind of audiences do. It was one of the easier 3 hours that I've watched, but once more, I would still like to get rid of the 3 hours. I think they're way too elongated. But that's not really a problem either, because again, you're on Netflix, you can zoom through them and stuff. But really good few weeks for professional wrestling. I think ever since we started March, we're about 2 weeks in. Same with AEW as well. It's just directions, there's characters. I don't care about TV ratings, so I'm not going to let that affect how I watch the shows. And I think WrestleMania is going to be great. We did that video the other day that said, I actually think when you break down the WrestleMania card and go through some potentials, it's way more insane than people are giving it credit for. I mean, they've got obvious matches too. I didn't mention Randy Orton versus Carmelo Hayes on SmackDown. Really good match. Carmelo Hayes one day is going to just give him time to get some wins and some programs. Randy Orton is one of the GOATs for sure. And then obviously he's going to punt Carmelo Hayes after the RKO. Kevin Owens runs in, and we can carry that one on at WrestleMania. It will end with the punt, right? So you got Randy Orton from 2010. I get confused with Randy Orton because he has brought the punt back a couple of times. Like he punted Christian in the head during the pandemic era. But I forget. But it's just really good. And the pop from Randy Orton was just like, well, that's a pretty big pop, man. That's pretty damn impressive. So thumbs all around for this episode of SmackDown, and I'm very excited about next week's. If Roman's going to be on there, I think CM Punk is advertised, which means Seth will be there too. Monday, you got Cody and John Cena. So we're going to see the kind of oomph we're going to put into the WrestleMania 41 main events. I know I've said this a few times. I ain't ever going to get mad at Saturday night being Roman versus Punk versus Seth, and Sunday night being Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. And again, you could even put Bianca Io Sky and Bianca Belair in. Did I just say that twice? Rhea Ripley, you know what I'm talking about. You could put that match as the main event of night 1-2. I think that is going to carry some real weight as we do get on. And again, the SmackDown tag division feels way better than the Raw one right now. That's my only other bugbear. How did I not talk about this? We did the Jade Cargill interview. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. I mean, it's mostly Liv Morgan. What a character, man. So entertaining. So brilliant. They're going to have a match next week. I understand you have to put that to bed before we do move on to the Naomi stuff. Also, Naomi is going to babyface herself on social media for being way too funny. I don't want to forget about these tag team titles. That match between Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Bianca, and Naomi was so damn good. And actually, at one stage, the women tag team titles had kind of elevated themselves above both the men's championships. I don't want to get rid of that, so I still hope that, random as it is, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross become a tag team with the Wyatt Six stuff, and they can challenge for those titles, because I think Liv and Raquel have something as a team. So I just like it when you have a team who are the champions, you double down into that. And that's essentially what Bianca Belair and Naomi did, or Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill did. Bianca even said in her promos, I gave up on the single stuff to focus on these belts. It just gives them gravitas. It just gives them weight. But what did Liv Morgan call Jade Cargill? Like a loser idiot or something. But it's the delivery. She is right up there right now because her match quality has improved as well. She took everything in 2024 and hit a home run. And when this tag team stuff is done, yeah, she should be whacked right up there too. So honestly, good episode. I was quite pumped about it. Maybe even more pumped about it now I've sat down here and talked about it. Now, of course, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Do subscribe, notification bell, especially if you're on mobile phone. Click the video on the screen for more content from me. It's my Q&A, and I really did enjoy that. Also, it went up a bit weird time, so I think some people missed it. So please make up for that if you can. If you are watching this on the 15th of March, tomorrow is the last day of the 25% off Grill and Mind sale. Go to grillandmind.com/Simon. Good Simon, get 10% off. Description down there. Again, these are the fitness supplements I use. Otherwise, Pro Wrestling Tees, simon.bigcartel.com, Simon316 on social media, Simon J. Miller on TikTok, Simon on Cameo. They've got a spring sale on there as well, so you get some cameos really cheap. But otherwise, enjoy your weekend, my friends. I'm off to wrestle now. I'll probably lose. I always do, but I have a good time, which is almost how I approach all sports entertainment. Take care, my friends. See you soon.